Hello again and welcome to ISAC Software Academy Linux course. This lesson will be about the Linux daemons or demons, depending on how you want to actually pronounce it. I tend to use them interchangeably, so you may notice at one time I'll say daemons and the next time I'll say demons. It really does depend upon your personal preference. Either way you go, people will understand what you're talking about. A daemon or daemon is roughly equivalent to a Windows service is. So you'll find you'll have daemons that will run, for example, as a sound service in the background, or specifically one I can think of off the top of my head is the Dhcp Daemon, which all it does is try and fetch an IP address, or give out IP addresses more specifically. Now these are things that are considered to be important tasks, however generally run in the background and are things that the user generally does not want to actually worry about in their day-to-day tasks, and as such it will do all of the work in the background. They can be manipulated directly if necessary. Quite often this is the case when networking goes down and you actually have to manipulate the networking based daemons directly. Now this can be done when you first run them. A lot of daemons are actually run, or almost all of them in fact, are actually run during the system startup. However, those that aren't can actually be manipulated via command line parameters, or while they're running by specific commands for each daemon. Not all commands will work for all daemons. There are some general universal ones, but for the most part they'll be different for each one. You can also find that there will be different interfaces. Some daemons will actually use a graphical interface. This is rare for it to actually happen for the daemon itself. Some people will actually make a graphical interface to a daemon that they constantly have to use. So this is where you would find that happening. Now daemons are actually listed in the output of PS. And obviously PS would stand for processes. Now daemons are processes like any other application. They just are almost always on. They're not something that you would generally run because you need it for a particular task. They're something that is generally run automatically to provide you a service so that you don't have to think about it. A good example of this is the DHCPD, which obviously is Dynamic Host Control Protocol Daemon. Now this you'll see a lot of with daemons. They actually have a D at the end of their name. It's incredibly common. Some of them blend well with the name, and you would think that it actually belongs there and that's the full name, but it actually stands for daemon. So that's something to keep in mind. If you do see a D at the end of a process name, high probability that it is in fact a daemon. And not all daemons are for important system tasks. Some, as an example, the MySQL daemon, that one would be for a database. Now this is not important to the system in most cases, but it could still be an important application, so this is why it's used. Common ones you may come across, obviously DHCPD, ACPID, which is the Advanced Configuration and Power Interface daemon. This is generally for intelligent power management tasks. You'll find this in other operating systems as well, but this is the daemon that controls that in Linux. There's also crond, which you may remember from our task scheduling lesson, and that's obviously for running the scheduled tasks with cron. Cups is something you may not be familiar with. This is actually, if memory serves, it's common Unix printing service, and it's actually a daemon as well, and its sole purpose, as you may have guessed, is to allow for printing in Unix environments, which does include Linux in this case. And the other one I've got here as a common daemon is HTTPD. Now this one is generally something you'll find on web servers, but it's still common nonetheless, and it is obviously the Hypertext Transfer Protocol daemon and used for hosting web pages. Now you'll probably find that most with Apache ones, but it will probably be a common thing because it is such a common name. Now, as you can see, I've written here that daemons are used to provide services, which is the underlying point that was trying to be made here. And to this is to other applications, other hosts, or the user. Now, when it's other applications, for example, you would have MySQLD for MySQL applications. Other hosts would be, for example, the web servers of HTTPD, or the user, which you could also argue is done by HTTPD, since they are obviously using the web page as well. Generally speaking, if something in a Linux system isn't working, good chance that the daemon needs to be restarted, or something similar to that effect. Might need to be updated and wasn't. So these are things to keep in mind. Now we'll do a little bit of practical work with regard to daemons. Now, I was saying that you can see them listed in a PS listing. Now if you have a look through here, you'll actually find that as an example, you have cups here. It's actually dbus, so we're actually going to skip over that one. But you'll find that you do actually have quite a few daemons. Now some of them, as you can see, also utilize the full word of daemon. Not very common, but becoming more common. There's another one there, and obviously there as well, and here. Now scrolling up a little bit more, you'll find that there is, as a prime example, another one here. And the further up you go, the more likely there are to be daemons or demons. There's a color daemon here, a gconf, which I will hazard a guess is a, by the looks of, GNU configuration daemon. And there was one in particular I wanted to show you that I'm not finding right now. There is, however, the wikd daemon, which I did cover wikd in the networking section about wireless. Now I don't actually have wireless here, but it was installed as part of that, and it obviously has a daemon for itself. Now scrolling up a bit more, you can see there's a DH client. Now this is not to be confused with the DHCPD. They are not the same. This one is for fetching an IP address for your system rather than serving them out. And this one here is one we've covered, that is the cups daemon. So it's there, and obviously there's also the rsyslogd for system logging, and quite a few others, Bluetooth and so on and so forth. So you can see that they are in fact actually there. Now the other thing we can do is, if you remember we saw cups D, if we do a -H on that, you can actually see the command line options available for cups D, and I'll hazard a guess there was probably a man page as well, which will give you a little bit more information. Now this one's the scheduler for cups, so this is obviously fairly important for timing. As you can see, it gives you the same command line options, but gives you a bit more of a description rather than just spitting them out. Another one that you can actually use is the ACPID Daemon. So as you can see, it has considerably more command line options available to it. You can see here that there is a common one, which is the -C for the conf or config file, configuration directory. They're both for configuration nonetheless, and they actually have also a -F for running in the foreground, which is obviously another commonality, and of course what we've been using, which is -H. Now you'll note, however, that this one up the top, the cups D, uses only the minus and a letter, whereas this one will do minus and a letter and minus and a name. Now it depends on which ones you're actually looking into, but you'll probably find this will be more common more often than not. However, this particular format is exceptionally common in Linux, so you should probably get used to that as well. Now, as you can see, you can also debug. So if you're having issues with your ACPI, you can actually debug it to find out what's going on. So there is always that option, and obviously there is more daemons than this. However, we will only cover a few of them, namely ones that we can actually manipulate. Another daemon that you might come across is the @daemon, which is ATD. As you'll see, this actually displays no help information whatsoever. It's not really meant to be accessed directly like that, and should be, there you go, a man page for the ATD. Now as you can see, it does have some command line options here, but as I say, isn't really meant to be run directly, so it should be avoided. It's used obviously by the command we've covered previously, and obviously it's designed to run tasks at certain times. So that's another one there that is available. Now another method of interacting with these daemons is something we have covered briefly before. If you remember, I used a command to shut down or stop networking and then start it back up again, as well as also trying to restart it. Now because of the way these interact, it wasn't 100% successful. However, if one goes to, let's see if I remember the exact location again, then networking was the one we wanted, and you could simply do, if I remember correctly, I also need a sudo, but we'll see that in a moment. You can simply say stop, and yep, we need a sudo command to do so, so that's fine. Now if you recall, it caused quite a bit of pain for the interface as well, the graphical interface. It didn't like it very much and just flickered then, as you might have seen. Now one should also be able to do the exact opposite of that and start it again. As you can see, it still doesn't like being invoked in this fashion. However, there is also the other option of being able to go restart. Now the other thing was to get the icon back up in the corner, so theoretically simply running it should work, but I've never really done it without doing a reboot, so it's obviously not going to work in this instance. Now that's another way of interfacing with Daemons. This is actually, as you can see, a script in the init.d directory, which is up here, specifically for the daemons relating to networking. Pretty much as a result of this, this is another way of doing it, but as a different script that actually starts up the network manager that is the icon up here. So this is something to keep in mind if you're going to do it with networking, as we have done again. There are other scripts in there which I can show you briefly by doing a listing of the directory, and we will want to do a pipe more because there'll be a few. As you can see, there are a lot of files in here, and they're all related to something that the system requires to boot up. As you can see there is the cups upstart job and ATD, which we covered before. It's also dmessage, which is very useful for seeing the system startup messages and what's failed. Considerably more along here as well, so this is always something good to go through and have a look at, because you can actually see what's there. I wouldn't change anything because that will cause problems, but there's the networking one we just used. So this is where you can go in and have a look at some of the scripts that are available there. That's it for this lesson. Thank you for joining us.